Evan Carlson, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Darren Stevens.
This is The Poetic Turn. It's a poetry podcast. We talk about poetry and poets, and we're just enthusiasts here, and we're trying to let people know, or we're trying to share our enthusiasm about poetry, and hopefully you'll enjoy what we talk about, enjoy the poets and the poetry and just our discussion. Today we have a very famous American poet. Who would that be, Evan?
We've got Carl Sandburg.
And now we're a Chicago-based poetry podcast, but this podcast will not feature the poem "Chicago" by Carl Sandburg.
You'll have to wait for that one.
You're going to have to wait for that one. We will deal with it eventually. But there's so many great Carl Sandburg poems, and Evan has chosen a great one for today. But even before we get into that poem, I want to share something that's on the Poetry Foundation website. In his book of poetry called Good Morning America, published in 1928, Sandburg published 38 definitions of poetry, and among them were: poetry is a pack-sack of invisible keepsakes. Poetry is a sky dark with a wild duck migration. Poetry is the opening and closing of a door, leaving those who look through to guess about what is seen during a moment.
Wow.
I like that last one especially. It's just kind of this glimpse. This poem is this moment, sometimes a moment in time, a lightning strike that illuminates.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I hadn't heard of these before, but that poetry is the opening and closing of a door, leaving those who look through to guess about what is seen during a moment. Yeah, and so those who look through would be those of us who read a poem, and you don't get to go through the door necessarily, but you get to get a glimpse at what's behind it.
Yeah.
That's great.
We can't be in the mind of the poet. We don't know what they were talking about or what inspired them, but we get a glimpse. But those glimpses, don't you think, Evan, because of the power of the imagistic language, the power of description in a poem, that look it's not a tiny glimpse sometimes, it's a pretty all-involving.
Yeah. Well, and to not glimpse it, it's just a life I don't want to live.
Yeah.
To not even get a glimpse at what may be behind that door.
Yeah.
Whatever that door may be leading to.
And so you got to read that poem. You got to engage with the material and the world. Absolutely.
Yeah. But even poetry is a sky dark with a wild duck migration. That's great because there's so much movement to it, and that's sort of what the turn is the motion of a poem and how it twists and moves, and how maybe at one point the sky is clear and blue, but then suddenly out of nowhere there's hundreds and hundreds of wild ducks migrating overhead, darkening the sky. So he obviously knew a thing or two.
He did. And we often do this. We often read the poem and talk about it and read it again. So how about I give it a try here. This is a poem chosen by Evan Carlson. It's written by Carl Sandburg.
And from his Chicago Poems collection.
His Chicago Poems collection, which featured the poem Chicago. But this poem is called I Am the People, the Mob. I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me? I am the working man, the inventor, the maker of the world's food and clothes. I am the audience that witnesses history. The Napoleons come from me, and the Lincolns. They die, and then I send forth more Napoleons and Lincolns. I am the seed ground. I am a prairie that will stand for much plowing. Terrible storms pass over me. I forget. The best of me is sucked out and wasted. I forget. Everything but death comes to me and makes me work and give up what I have, and I forget. Sometimes I growl, shake myself, and spatter a few red drops for history to remember. Then I forget. When I, the people, learn to remember, when I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year, who played me for a fool, then there will be no speaker in all the world say the name, the people, with any fleck of a sneer in his voice or any far-off smile of derision. The mob, the crowd, the mass will arrive then.
That was a great reading, Darren.
Well, thank you, Evan.
Yeah, I haven't. It hasn't hit me that hard in just reading it to myself. So that was great.
Well, this is one of the many reasons we do this. Like the poems always hit me harder when you read them too. So, yeah, there's so much here. It's this is shorter than his famous poem Chicago. It's longer than his poem about the fog. The fog
Yes.
moves on little cat feet. That's a Sandburg construction.
Yeah.
But there's so much here. I am the people, the mob, and that's everybody, and it's individuals, it's masses.
Yeah, I mean the line that really stuck out to me here, perhaps because of the various wars and conflicts going on right now in the world, but it was, sometimes I growl, shake myself, and spatter a few red drops for history to remember. Then I forget.
Yeah.
And that idea of forgetting.
Yeah. A few red drops. So whether it's a civil war or a murder, but then the world moves on, the globe turns.
Yeah, and the idea that the people are spattering their own blood.
Yeah.
This personification of this huge group is shaking, and it's coming out of themselves, and so it's sort of this great image of the people as this unified thing that exists as not a scattered thing, but a singular thing.
I am the people. So you think of the people, the mob, just some ragtag band of folks. But in this poem, Napoleons come out of the people, Lincolns.
Yeah.
And they're these great men, these historic figures, and then they die. But then I send forth more Napoleons and Lincolns, so.
Yeah. And there's great Midwestern imagery with the prairie that will stand for much plowing. And this idea of I forget, this comes up a lot. And then the great turn in this poem is when I, the people, learn to remember.
Yes.
When I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year.
Who played me for a fool.
Then there will be no speaker in all the world, say the name, the people, with any fleck of a sneer in his voice, or any far-off smile of derision. And it's sort of this great lead up to that, where it's saying these are all the things that I forget about, the good things I forget about, the bad things I forget about. And if the people could just learn,
if only we could remember, and we don't talk about politics on this podcast, but let's just say that the people in America have made certain choices in their leaders that, had they remembered those leaders from a previous time, they might not have made those choices. Had they not forgotten, they might have made different choices.
Yeah. Well, even the juxtaposition of Napoleons and Lincolns. I think that Carl Sandburg probably, from the little I know about him, has his opinions about the difference of those two men.
Yeah. Well, he wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of Lincoln, a very long, detailed, in-depth biography of Lincoln. He's one of the world's foremost experts on Lincoln. Yes.
Yeah, and the idea that Napoleons, who are these dictators, and in many ways oppressors of the world, come from the people, but the Lincolns also come from the people. These people who are great leaders that
absolutely
that make positive change and difficult decisions, and we witness that history, and they keep on sending more people like both of those men. And they come in power, but we still forget what happens when a Napoleon comes into power? What happens
Yes.
when a Lincoln comes into power? And we
Yeah.
don't remember that if we had a Lincoln, things would be different. But we forget how great somebody like that is.
Wow. And when I, the people, learn to remember, man, oh man, yeah,
And
they'll
so it's
be,
calling
yeah.
for that. It's sort of a
It is
poem that
calling for
is
that. Yeah.
provoking that remembrance. And it's interesting, those different words: the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass.
Yeah.
And he's not putting uh, much judgment, it seems, on the word mob, which sometimes
Yeah.
we think, oh, it's a mob of people. That's a bad thing. He's sort of saying we need a mob of people, because a mob is a group that is maybe like-minded and together and unified
Yeah.
and present with each other. I don't know. Did anything strike you specifically else in here?
Again, like I always do when we discuss poetry together, there's more I got out of this by our discussion even thus far. That contrast between Napoleon and Lincoln. I when I read it through the first couple of times, just oh well, there's one famous historical man, another famous historical man. No, one of them was a dictator, and the other one was whatever the opposite of a dictator is. Yeah,
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
democratizing influence on the world. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's Lincoln. I'm sure. I mean, Whitman also writes about Lincoln pretty beautifully, and so he's sort of this poetic
Touchstone.
touchstone of especially this era and before of poetry, and this sort of American mythological figure as well. And Napoleon is also sort of a world mythological figure.
Yeah. One of the great things about Sandburg is he actually lived a long life, and we can hear his voice. I found a YouTube video of Carl Sandburg reading one of his poems, and I will
Really?
put that in the show notes. Yeah, it's interesting.
I'll definitely have to check that out,
Yeah.
because you do learn a lot from hearing a poet read their own work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you learn that, for me at least, sometimes I hear it and I think, wow, they just don't understand their poem at all. It's so much better than the way they read it.
That's fun.
And sometimes you think, oh, wow,
But I'm sure it's
that is
yeah.
that touches on things I couldn't even imagine.
Well, it's your turn, my friend.
Oh,
It's
You froze on me
Evan's
for a
turn to
second.
read the poem. So, would you like to take a pass through?
Yeah, sorry, you froze on me for a second there.
It's Evan's turn to read the poem. So, would you like to take a pass through, Evan?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is I Am the People, the Mob by Carl Sandburg. I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me? I am the working man, the inventor, the maker of the world's food and clothes. I am the audience that witnesses history. The Napoleons come from me, and the Lincolns. They die, and then I send forth more Napoleons and Lincolns. I am the seed ground. I am a prairie that will stand for much plowing. Terrible storms pass over me. I forget. The best of me is sucked out and wasted. I forget. Everything but death comes to me and makes me work and give up what I have, and I forget. Sometimes I growl, shake myself, and spatter a few red drops for history to remember. Then I forget. When I, the people, learn to remember, when I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year, who played me for a fool, then there will be no speaker in all the world say the name, the people, with any fleck of a sneer in his voice, or any far-off smile of derision. The mob, the crowd, the mass, will arrive then.
A beautiful reading, Evan. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Oh, man. I, yeah, and there's that long sentence at the end there, for the turn.
Yeah.
When I, the people, learn to remember. When I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year, who played me for that whole thing stretching through till,
Yeah.
yeah. And as we always do, we urge anybody listening to this, please go to the show notes and read the poem over for yourself and get it in your head, in your voice. And they should read it out loud, shouldn't they, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, what I felt like reading it out loud was, it felt like I was at the front of some rally, some great rally,
Yeah.
and you get to feel like a great orator in front of these crowds of people. And in this one, the first part sort of stood out to me a little more, and that question at the very beginning: do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me?
Yeah.
And the idea that, maybe the people at the top think that they're the ones that produce or create or make great things. But it starts off with sort of a perhaps controversial question. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me?
Well, if we can hold on to that, if we can not forget, Evan, if our country cannot forget, and keep in mind democracy and the mass and the people, if we can not forget and move forward and keep democracy alive somehow in this great American experiment.
Yeah, well, and that's what, a poem like this is so good at just drawing our attention to something that maybe we have forgotten. And for a moment, we get to see through that door that just as we're seeing through is closing.
Yeah.
Because
or could close if we don't nurture it and care for it. Yeah.
And it is interesting because it is very easy to forget something. It's very easy to forget something, but it really takes hard work to remember.
Well, it does, especially now. The media moves on, the news cycle moves on, and so you see some horror in the news. You think, oh boy, well that'll bring down that person or that country or that leader, and then a month goes by, a week,
and we forget,
a year, and we forget.
Yeah, and we're the audience that witnesses history.
Yeah.
And the best of me is sucked out and wasted. That's another intense line. The best of me is sucked out and wasted.
Everything but death comes to me and makes me work and give up what I have.
And I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those poems that has so much direct imagery and intense imagery, and it sort of begs you and forces you to think about your place in all of it.
Yeah.
And do we want? Is it the place of these great men, even someone like Lincoln, or is it the mob, the people itself that can really change the world? Because it doesn't say that all great things are done through men like Lincoln.
Yeah, it doesn't say that.
It says it's done through me, the mob.
The people, the mass.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just one of those poems that I was reading through Chicago poems, and it struck me.
You mean Sandburg's book, Chicago Poems?
Yeah. I was
Wonderful.
flipping through it. We had a copy back home that I took with me here to Chicago because Carl Sandburg. I did want to bring up. He's got a connection to Chicago and North Carolina.
What's that connection?
Well, he I believe he lived at the end of his life in North Carolina, and so the historic site for him, if anybody's interested in visiting, if any of our listeners want to dig deeper into it.
And for those of you who don't remember or know, Evan Carlson is from North Carolina, so
yes, indeed,
that's why it came
up. The
up.
greatest state in the Union.
Well, I'm from everywhere. I'm from Missouri by way of Ohio, and I've lived in Chicago for many, many years. So
yeah, But you still get to claim Carl Sandburg because of Chicago.
That's right. I do.
Absolutely.
We all do. Anybody listening to this from Chicago or the world? Sandburg is for the world, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, that's the
English-speaking world. Actually, we got to keep in mind, not to be chauvinistic here, the English-speaking world. But
yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, it's interesting. I'm not remembering entirely everything about Carl Sandburg, but I do remember that he was maybe dismissed a little as a poet.
Yeah, because of the free verse. Because these poems don't rhyme. Wait a minute, what's going on here? These don't go kalum 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 kalum. Yeah,
and also people thought, he's too populist. He's too popular. People like his poetry, and so it's not really deep poetry. It's not like these poets that we want, or the romantic poets, or.
Well, again, from the Poetry Foundation website, a writer, Carl Detzer, says that in 1918, in quotes, admirers proclaimed him a latter-day Walt Whitman. Objectors cried that their 6-year-old daughters could write better poetry.
Yeah, I mean, poetry, there are some intense debates over poetry, but some people hated Whitman, too, when he first came out.
Yeah.
Some people loved him, but some people said, what you're writing is not actually poetry. And, Sandburg borrows from Whitman this free verse and these really long lines.
Yeah.
Which that's why I think y'all should look up this poem and read it, because you can see how long the lines are, and the line breaks are maybe a little more or a little less abrupt as some poems are. It's not jolted in place, but he does have big ideas that he wants to get across and doesn't want interrupted.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that ending after the turn, that ending, yeah.
Yeah, because he doesn't, another poet might put some breaks in there and utilize those devices to add some surprise and add some playfulness to it, but there is a bit of an urgency about this poem that it's like, I just need to get this across to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to mince words about it. I just want to say it.
That wonderful turn, then I forget, and then it starts with when I, the people, and it just tumbles on forward to the end. So, yes, any of our listeners, really urge them to read the poem over.
And you know what? I'm looking now, and it goes from, at the beginning, I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. And people is not capitalized there.
Oh.
But then when that turn happens, when I, the people, capital P.
Very good. Very good to notice that. Yes.
People, capital P.
Yeah. And the third time.
Yeah.
Very, very.
That's
very
interesting.
Good noticing that, Evan. Very good. Yeah.
And at the very least, that just begs some emphasis, but it could also just.
It's an elevation.
It's an elevation. It's really making it into. The people are not a thing that you can be flippant about.
Yeah. It's important. It deserves more respect and weight.
Yeah. And so there is a transformation. And maybe he's saying, I'm going to capitalize people, and because of that, we've got to remember.
Yeah.
We've got to remember.
Yeah. Very, very good to notice that, Evan. Excellent. Yeah. Well, this has been a great one. And once again, Evan, you've done it again. You've brought a poem to me. I thought, well, this is good. Yeah, this is really good. And then I learned exactly how good it is by our discussion of it and by Evan Carlson's big squishy brain working on it for a little bit in our conversation. So I thank you again for another excellent choice for the Poetic Turn. And thank you for this.
Thanks for being here with me. This was great, because I feel the same way. Talking about a poem, it just opens up things that you couldn't possibly have seen just reading it in your head alone.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
And we thank you, the listeners. If you're hearing the sound of our voices, you're part of the Poetic Turn audience. Do all that stuff. Tell friends. Tell Anybody you like about the Poetic Turn, like and share, give us reviews, do all that stuff that podcast people like. We don't do this for that reason. We do this because we like poetry and like talking about it and like sharing it. That's why we created the Poetic Turn podcast. But it's always good to get more audience members out there, and we think we have a little bit to say about poetry in general. So thanks once again, Evan Carlson.
Thank you, Darren Stevens.
We'll see you next time.